The following is an interview made in Ardmore in about 1956 by Rhonda Sills with a Mr. Shellenbarger, Shellenbarger, of Marietta, and the first name is not given.
You say you came here, Mr. Shellenbarger, in 1980?
No, 18 and 90.
1890.
18 and 90. Was born at Bonham, Fannin County, Texas, in 1878, and went from there to Eastland County, Texas, bought a homestead at 160 acres in Eastland County near the little town of Hogtown, or the Desdemona is the real name. It's called Hogtown, went by the name of Hogtown. We put in a timbered place there. We was there in we was 5 years there in a 7-year drought, and the government shipped in the rations there. Our stock all starved to death before we began to get those rations in, and then we had become discouraged and sold out and left that and came back to Tarrant County, and we went there to Eastern County in 1885. We was working on We went to Eastern County and bought a homestead there in 1883, and we left there in 88 and came to Benbrook in Tarrant County, Texas, and then left then moved from there. Father was a census enumerator in 1890 there, and we moved from Benbrook, Tarrant County, to the Indian Territory here in 1890, and we put in a lease out here on this Pittman Ranch, and then this is known as the W.H. Pittman Ranch. Put in a 10-year lease out there in the timber. We cleared the land, cut the logs, and built the house. I arrived the boards. I was just 12 years old. Father showed me how to make the shingles of boards. I arrived the boards to cover the buildings with. We built the house and barn and such like. And I was big enough to plow, and I broke this land out with 2 horses, and there was lots of roots in there, and those roots, my shins would be black and blue from them roots breaking and flopping back again with my shins. Well, we made the rails, fenced this tract of land there. We lived there on that until the lease was out, and then we moved then down here. Father moved down here to Marietta, and out on this Wilbur and Gaines place. And I went to school. I started school at Ardmore in 1895, and I went there and up until the January of 1900. And I got my diploma and was out of school there then, and went to Raccoon, New Mexico for a short period of time, and then came back. When I went to school at Ardmore there, I didn't have much of a literary education when I started, and John Easley was a literary teacher in the school there, and he taught me for a year or more. And then I went on and finished, and when I finished I went to Raccoon, New Mexico, and taken a job there with the Santa Fe Railroad Company. I was there in the roundhouse, worked there for about 16 months, and then came back here to Marietta and went to work with Father on the farm. Worked until sometime in April with him, and the green bugs hit the oat crop that year, and oat and wheat, and just completely wiped it out. And the government survey party was in here then, and with the Dawes Commission surveying this land in here, the Indian land, and it had been a bunch of appraisers in here and appraised it, and then there was a running a center line, what we call the center lines, two lines across each section. And I went to work with them and worked 2 years with the Dawes Commission. Colonel S.W. Benedict in charge with it here. I was moundsman, went to work there and was set those corners. I was moundsman, what we call moundsman. I drove a little team of mules and carried the section rocks around, marked them and marked the trees and set those corners. Here from here to Whitebeat, I quitted Whitebeat. The mosquitoes was awful bad. They just ate us up that year, and I got so much malaria, I was having chills, and I quit then at Whitebeat. Then in this time I met my wife, Lily Greenwood, and we was married on July the 18th, 1892. And we have the parents of 10 children, 6 boys and 4 girls. She's 73 and I'm 77, and we're here still kicking around, working every day. But in the hard time, now we was here when the times was really tough. I've worked for 50 cents a day, and we start of a morning at sun up and quit at sundown. And through the harvest, worked 16 hours a day. We got 6 bits then, 6 bits a day for that work. I've done everything around the thrashing machine, from feeding it on to stacking the straw. And I've done a lot of hard work in my life, and I don't think work hurts a man if he take care of himself. But I don't know. There's a lot of people think that the Indians were savage when we came here, but they were not. I think they were just as nice as any race of people that you ever dealt with. If you treated them right, why, you got along with them just the finest kind. And I went from here to Mount Wash, Oklahoma, which is 14 miles west of Altus, and the next town, what is that next town north of Altus? I can't call the name of the town, but anyhow, I was in there. I went through there horseback. I drove a bunch of horses for a man that moved from Eastman over here out there to Mount Wash. Drove a bunch of horses through for him, and I was 13 or 14 years old, 14 I believe it was at that time. And then had an uncle out at Altus, and I went on down from this place where we Mount Wash to Altus and stayed there a few days with my uncle, and then just come across the country. There was just a few big ranches in there, Suggs and Wagner's. That country was all open except those 2 big cattlemen, and I rode 35 miles right down one string of fence, and got in there, and it was in August and awfully dry, and there's no water at all in those tanks. Were nearly all dry, and the cattle was having to go to the river for water. And I got in there to eat breakfast one morning at about daylight, and the Wagners was shipping a bunch of cattle, and I stayed all night at this ranch. And then I started out then to go on to Fort Sills, which is about something like 100, or a little over 100 miles, I think it was, across there. Anyhow, it was more than a day's ride for a horse then at that time. And I left to my uncle's at noon and made it to this ranch and stayed all night that night. And the next morning then I started and rode all day without a drop of water, not one drop of water from me nor my horse in August. well, I stayed camped that night right out in the middle of a big pasture, and tied my horse to the horn of my saddle, and laid down on my saddle blanket and slept there. What sleep I got, by the coyotes and the lobe of wolves howled around the big band that night, and I didn't sleep too much. My pony kept snorting and raising sand, and I didn't get to sleep much. Next morning I got up and rode until 2 o'clock before I got any water. And I'm telling you, you talk about being thirsty, but I was thirsty. And I come to a camp that is an Indian camp, and I knew they had water somewhere. I couldn't talk their language, and they couldn't talk mine. And so I made signs, and they pointed down to the creek, which was Cache Creek, in there, close to Fort Sills. And I got down there, and there was a little hole dug down right in the bed of the creek. It didn't have any bucket or anything there, and it was 2 feet or more down to this water. So I got down on my stomach, stuck my head way down in there, and just pumped this water uphill and got me a drink. As soon as I couldn't hardly keep this pony off of me till I could get through drinking, because it wanted water so bad. So I backed off and let the pony go down on her knees, went down her head down in this hole and drank. And so I was so thirsty, and I guess drank too much, and I irked up what water I'd drank. Sat there for 30 or 40 minutes and went back then and tried it again. It stayed that time. So I got on my horse then and rode on into Fort Sills, got into Fort Sills. I stayed there for, I guess, a couple hours, just drinking a little water at a time, And then they went on, stayed all night at the farmhouse that night, and the next day it was 65 miles in home, and I rode on in home that night. Got in there about 9 o'clock. And now that was wild country, and if many people talk about the Indians being in those early days being savage, these Indians were just a lot of them there, a big camp, and they never bothered me or parted with me, just a kid. And I think that's all hooey about so much having trouble with the Indians. Now that's about all that I know of that I'd want to say, unless you've got some questions you want to ask me, and I'll try to answer.
Well, you say you had 9 boys in your family?
No, 6 boys and 4 girls.
Well, how large a family was your father's?
There was 7 boys and 4 girls.
7 boys, 4
girls. Yeah. My father's name was Charles J. Shellenbarger, and the mother's name was Molly Shellenbarger. She was a Ward, Molly Ward, and before she was married.
Where was your father born?
He was born at Mackinac, Illinois. He was born in Mackinac, Illinois.
Your mother was probably born.
She was born somewhere in Fannin County. I forget now, a little place in Fannin County where she was born. And my wife was born here at Burneyville, over here at Burneyville in the Indian Territory.
What about the wildlife around here, Mr. Shellenbarger?
Well, there was plenty of game when we came here. We used to go over here on the boughs, kill wild turkey. I never killed a wild deer, but I've seen quite a few of them out here by Leon. Back in that, it was an open country then, and just scattering timber. And I went deer hunting in there. We've seen several, but I wasn't with anyone that killed a deer, but there was a lot of them in there. And there was lots of quail. I usually start out here and just be covey after covey, and a lot of times as many as 30 covey quail. And they used to bring them in there to Ardmore, they'd net them, what they call netting quail, a big long net, and you could go out there of a drizzly day and just round those quails up and drive them in this net. Now I have seen them bring them into Ardmore that they had netted that way in a bottom bed of a wagon with a wire netting over it, just as thick as that, and birds could stay in there, just little heads stick up there. And they sold them there to those restaurants at a nickel piece. And I think for the reason we don't have any more quails now is the bird dogs. Bird dogs, you go out here and they catch those little quails. They let them run loose. Too many people let a bird dog run loose. Well, he's out. He's going to be hunting whether you with him or not. Those bird dogs will destroy them. Then we have this many house cats here that wasn't here before. These house cats are bad about them. And people go out there and too many fellas will go out there and just kill the whole cover with that bird dog. Because he'll spot them, and then they haven't got it. We didn't have bird dogs in them days. There's a few, very few that had bird dogs, and they were people that lived in town. They liked to hunt with bird dogs, but they kept that dog up. They didn't let that dog run at large like they most of them do here. I think the bird dog is one thing. I live right here at the edge of town. I have more trouble with bird dogs chasing the cattle, getting out there. They don't do it themselves, but they get out there with a bunch of other dogs. Some little old fight will start barking and take after a cow or a calf or anything, and they run him plumb off. I've lost I don't know how many calves that way that the dogs would get out and stir them up and run them off. Now wife and I went this morning and got a little calf less than 3 days old. The dogs gave it a scare last night. Now I'm running plumb out of the pasture, off down in the lane. Some fellas come along and told me about getting a little calf down there, and I seen a cow walking hunting for a calf. Went down there and picked the calf up and brought it in. These dogs are a nuisance around town. I'd rather be 10 miles from town if I was trying to raise oxen right up again in a little town. People don't realize what the dogs are doing. And if you kill the dogs, a lot of people get sore about you being hard-hearted and all that. The man's got to protect his livestock. I have seen them here, and my neighbors will tell you the same thing. They've seen as many as 12 little dogs in a bunch out going across the pasture. And they go out there, and some dog in the bunch will jump out and go barking at a cow or a horse or anything, whatever's around there, and then the whole bunch take after. I've killed as high as 3 dogs to hold of one guy, and with a shotgun. Go out there with a shotgun and kill him. And now that's awful. And a man has to do things like that to protect himself.
Yeah. What about was there very good fishing around here?
Fishing was good, and the hunting of all kinds, even the short, what we call short game. We used to go out with a hunt of nights, possum, coon, polecat, and such like, and a few bobcats. Now, I used to have a couple of hunting dogs, and I thought they was just, as a boy then, I thought they'd catch anything. So they treated them with bobcat hunting. I had the gun and shot it out, but I wanted to see these dogs get hold of it. He whipped them dogs so quick that he was quicker than you could tell it. And they just simply worked on them dogs so they wouldn't even try to train anymore. They just quit it. And there was lots of hunting, and everything grass was up to your stirrup. You could ride out across the prairie with fresh air and grass to touch your feet. It wasn't overstocked. It's been overstocked now. And then we've had some awful dry years. Now, for the last 3 years, it's been awful dry. Stock water is scarcer here than I've ever seen it. One time in 32 years, just is nearly as bad. It's not as bad as it is now. But this has been a longer dry period than that. Lots of stock there. We've got a lot better grade of stock than what the people had. And I was here when the first white-faced bull was brought into this country. Seen the first white-faced bull that was brought into. We have been trying to improve the breed. I'm running a few Santa Gertrudis cattle. Now I like them awfully well. They're much heavier breeder cattle than the ordinary breed. And then they're fattened at any age, and I don't see why they're not better cattle for this country than either of the other breeds, on account of they weigh so much. I can raise up 2-year-old steer will weigh as much as a 3-year-old of the ordinary breed. Santa Gertrudis, and you fatten it at any age the same as your other steer. So I'm trying that course.
Well, thank you, Mr. Shellenbarger. And we made this interview at Mr. Shellenbarger's home on, this is 10th of March, 1956. It's made by Ronny Sills. Thank you.